Hi there, warriors, and welcome to this new video on the Uruguay Heroes YouTube channel. And today we will look back at 15 years of Óscar Tabárez as Uruguay manager. Last week, he was discharged of his job after a long period in charge of La Celeste. Some huge moments, some big moments, one of the best moments I have lived in my life, but also some big failures. And today we will look at it completely, the full package, and yeah, just look what has gone right and what has gone wrong ultimately, because he has left as Uruguay manager. And we will also look at the four most, in my opinion, best matches, most memorable matches in Tavares' era. And this is where we will start. So the first game, as you can see the picture of Uruguay versus Ghana in the World Cup of 2010 in South Africa. A match which had everything. Beautiful goals from Muntari and also from Forlan, obviously. Then going to the extra time, Suarez with the handball to to avoid a loss, avoid the elimination, and then Asamoah Gyan missing the penalty on the bar, and then the game going to the penalties and the penalty shootout with the end, with the final goal, with the final penalty of Elokwa Abreu, who chips it. Panenka, it's his style, and the all of Uruguay were maybe expecting it, but Ghana, they were not aware, obviously, and the goalkeeper went the wrong way, and Uruguay celebrated like madmen. Everybody did, and went to the first semi-final in, I think it was 40 years, first World Cup semi-final in 40 years. And we have to remember, this tournament, Uruguay entered as the last team of all the teams, had to play the qualifying or the playoff game against Costa Rica. Uruguay qualified as the last team of all teams going to South Africa. But eventually, Uruguay finished as the fourth place, went to the semifinals, lost against Holland, which many people, including me, thought, well, it could have been really a different story. But this game, the quarterfinal against Ghana, was a special game, one of the most special games I've ever lived. And I think it's the same case for many of you. And yeah, then moving on to another big game, the first and only trophy, we have to be honest, of Óscar Tabárez as Uruguay manager is the Estadio Monumental of River Plate. Uruguay playing against Paraguay, players getting onto the field right there on the right side. And yeah, it was a 3-0 win eventually. So Uruguay comfortably beating the Paraguayans and winning and lifting their 15th Copa America. And yeah, beautiful day. I to be honest, like once in a year, I watch this game back because I have it downloaded on my computer, on my laptop, and yeah, it was just brilliant. The thing that played in Uruguay's favor here is that Paraguay had to go to, I think, also extra time in the semifinals, and because the Copa America, it's like 4 or 3 days between the games, not like the World Cup. World Cup is like 5 or 6 sometimes, but Copa America is, well, bit less time between the games. So Paraguay were a little bit more tired, and Uruguay were fit, raring to go, and with many Uruguayans in the stands, it was an unforgettable day. And like I said, the only trophy of Óscar Tabárez' tenure is 15 years in Uruguay, which some feel is too little, and I'm one of these. But it was a brilliant day and a brilliant moment to look back on. And yeah, these moments, regardless of how things have gone in the last few years, people will always cherish these moments. And another game which I personally is my favorite game of Uruguay in the last 15 years probably is this one, because of the story it had. Okay, it was not a trophy, it was even the group stage, not a quarterfinal or anything, but it was the story, England all against Suarez winning the game on his own, even just coming back from injury, not even fully fit, and scoring the two brilliant goals that were virtually knocked out England and gave Uruguay a new lease of life in the tournament. And obviously after that, Uruguay won against Italy, but Suarez did his bite and he was kicked out of the tournament, and Uruguay were knocked out in the last 16. The tournament as a whole was not great, but this game was just unforgettable. I can remember watching this game, and this game also, like the Ghana game, this game had everything. It was such an amazing game. Absolutely amazing game. And yeah, Suarez even not fit, like I said. Well, basically paying back, giving England what he has been given all these years, giving something back, something for them to to eat basically. And it was brilliant. Was brilliant. Love this game like completely. Then another game 4 years later, in the last 16 against the European champions Portugal, and there was the Edinson Cavani game. Two fantastic goals, one goal with brilliant combination play between Suarez and Cavani, and the second goal with Cavani just curling the ball into the top corner, and Uruguay won the game 2-1. And it was, besides Cavani being brilliant, it was a complete team performance. Just everybody was working like madmen, giving everything for each other. You were proud to watch your team play like this. It was just brilliant. Just pure Garacharua performance, and one of my favorite games as well of Tabarez's tenure. So yeah, these are my four favorite games. Let me know in the comments, what is your favorite game of Uruguay under Óscar Tabárez? Is it one of these four? Is it another game? Just let me know. I will have a look at the comments as I always do. So yeah, let me know, please. Okay, then we will move to the tournaments under Tabárez. Uruguay have qualified for all World Cups under Tabarez's in Tabarez's tenure, which is obviously something good. Uruguay have had years where, yeah, qualification for World Cup was not something that happened often. Before Tabarez was in charge, Uruguay only qualified for one World Cup in 4, and now Uruguay are 3 in a row qualifying for the World Cup. So it's good, it's positive. But the thing I also like to say when people give this as an accomplishment for Tabarez is that, okay, it's good to qualify for 3 consecutive World Cups. Obviously, it's not something bad, but you have to look at it. You have to look at it like this: if Uruguay do not qualify for the World Cup at this moment or in the last few years, would we consider it as a failure? In my opinion, we would. So by that logic, Uruguay qualifying for the World Cup is not an over performance. It's not something amazing. No, it's an obligation. But okay, we will not go into this argument. Uruguay qualified for all 3 World Cups, and that is something good for sure. The first World Cup, we just talked about it a little bit. Uruguay were knocked out in the semifinals. Started off the tournament with a goalless draw against France, Lodero getting a red card. And then in the second game, Uruguay, well, running riot against the hosts, South Africa. And the second or the third game, an important goal by Suarez to get us into the lead, into the group as group leaders, getting into the next round as group leaders. If we didn't do this, then we would have faced Argentina. And I believe we could have also beat Argentina. But obviously, beating Argentina or South Korea is something completely different. The round of 16 game against South Korea, Suarez with 2 goals, the winning goal in the rain, brilliant moment. I remember this moment like it was yesterday. And then to the quarterfinals where, well, we all know the story. Eventually being knocked out in the semifinal, which is a shame. But yeah, this World Cup run was the best in Tabarez's tenure. Semifinals, yeah, maybe with a little bit of luck, we could have been in the final, but that's the way it is. Semifinal, first World Cup semifinal in 40 years, and yeah, it was a great one. Obviously memorable. Then in Brazil, a World Cup where Uruguay, well, they eventually qualified via the playoff against Jordan in the playoffs, but it was not easy. Uruguay, after a good start, after the Copa America of 2011, Uruguay started off the qualification campaign very well, but then after a few games, Uruguay dipped and went to well, lows like you would not imagine. Uruguay were like flat on their arse, just nothing was working. And at one moment, Diego Lugano even said in a few years later in an article that, well, Uruguay in a certain moment we were basically out of the World Cup. There was almost no possibility. But then the game, which was an important game away to Venezuela, where Cavani scored the winning goal, it instigated a new run of form, a positive run of form, and eventually Uruguay went to the World Cup via playoffs. And Uruguay, although the qualification process, like I just said, was not easy, Uruguay came to the World Cup thinking, we want to win this. We will win this because it is in Brazil. What is it? 64 years after the Maracanazo. This is the World Cup in 1950, where Uruguay beat Brazil at their home soil. We want to do this again. The problem was that Suarez first injured in the game against Costa Rica, and then his bite against Italy. Suarez at this moment was Uruguay. Suarez was carrying Uruguay. Everybody was looking at Suarez. So when he was out, it was always going to be difficult for Uruguay to compete. And yeah, Colombia was in great form in this World Cup, knocked out Uruguay in the round of 16, which was a huge disappointment. But everything was overshadowed by the Suarez bite, which was a shame. Yeah. Okay, 4 years later, Uruguay, for the first time in Tabárez's era, in Tabárez's tenure, Uruguay qualified for the World Cup directly, no playoff, which was the case in the 2010 and 2014 World Cup. But Uruguay went there as the the second place team behind Brazil. And yeah, Uruguay started the tournament with a game against Egypt, and Suarez, I remember, missed 2 or 3 big chances. So the game was looking like it was going to be a draw, but then Jose Jimenez with his header, absolutely towering header, won the game. Brilliant moment, one of my most celebrated goals, I think, as well. And then the second game, Suarez goal, not a good performance, but Suarez with his goal, winning. And then Russia, one of the best performances of the tournament for Uruguay, 3-0. Suarez own goal from Cheryshev, from Diego Laxalt with a shot, and it was deflected. And then Cavani in the last minute with his goal. And then the round of 16, we just talked about it, the memorable game, the Cavani game, and Uruguay beat the European champions. And the losing finalist of this same European Championship, which Portugal won, was the opponent in the quarterfinals. And Uruguay were missing Cavani, who was injured, went off injured in the Portugal game. And it was an uphill battle from the moment that happened. But still, Uruguay, in my opinion, yeah, did proposed too little, should have done better in this game. But it's the way it is. Varane scored the opener. The second half goal was scored by Griezmann from a blunder from Muslera, and Uruguay were going home after the quarterfinals. And it was a shame. I remember this day just feeling completely numb, completely empty of anything after this game. I'm really disappointed. But quarterfinal was where the tournament ended. And yeah. So overall, looking back at it, Uruguay went out of the group stage, or progressed out of the group stage in each tournament, went to a semi-final, quarterfinal, and last 16 round. Overall, that is not bad. It's the World Cup in 2010. I loved it. 2014 wasn't that great in my opinion, apart from the game against England. And then the World Cup in 2018 was good. Nothing more than good, but it was good. So overall, Uruguay under Tabárez in the World Cups, it was good. It was good. Some good moments, some brilliant moments, but also some moments where I thought, well, we could have done better. Like in Brazil, and like also, although the quarterfinal stage against the eventual world champions, it's okay, or it's not a failure maybe to lose here, but still, it leaves a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth. But overall, Uruguay under Tabárez at the World Cups, that is positive. Yeah, we have to say this. Something that is not positive, in my opinion, is the Uruguay's record under Tabárez in the Copa America. It started off brilliantly. Uruguay losing the semi-final on penalties, if I can remember rightly, in 2007. Uruguay winning the Copa America in 2011, which we talked about. Brilliant moments, good run, no loss in the whole tournament. The quarterfinal against Argentina, winning on penalties, just a memorable game. And then the semi-final against Peru and the final against Paraguay, where Uruguay were just too strong. And at that moment, Uruguay were the best team in South America, and also one of the best national teams in the world. But after this, after 2011, Uruguay were increasingly losing their way. And we can talk about the 2018 World Cup, which was positive. But overall, Uruguay, even though we qualified the second place in the qualifiers before the World Cup in 2018, Uruguay were not playing well. Uh, um, Uruguay were not playing well, not as we should, in my opinion. We had some great performances at home against Chile and Colombia, where basically we did really well, but overall it was not a great performance of the team. And then what also is just something that leaves me with a real bad taste in my mouth is the tournaments in the Copa America since the 2011 win, because the 2015 quarterfinals, Chile beat us. You can think, okay, Chile were at a brilliant moment back then, so you can think, well, it's a disappointment, but it can happen. But then 2016 group stage exit with a group of Venezuela and Jamaica and Mexico. That's just a disgrace. That's a disgrace. Should never happen. And the thing is, this tournament really really was revealing something which many of us were already maybe saying or maybe thinking, is that Uruguay without Suarez at that moment were basically another team. And obviously when you miss your best player, it's going to be difficult, but you should not be completely dependent on one player. You should also have a team that can play regardless of who is playing up front, have some structure, some style of play, some way of playing. And Uruguay failed in this tournament miserably because Suarez was not there anymore, because he was injured. So yeah, that was a big disappointment. And then 2019 quarterfinal exit against Peru. People can talk about the VAR, who did not do his job rightly, maybe. But Uruguay were knocked out in the quarterfinals. Then 2 years later, against Colombia, a few months back, Uruguay knocked out of the quarterfinals after penalties, just like against Peru in the quarterfinals in 2019. And people can say to me, okay, penalties, it's a lottery, you can have to have a little bit of luck. And I said to them, no, you don't have to have a little bit of luck. You have to make your own luck. What you have to do is to start this game trying to win the game, to not go to penalties. But Uruguay started the game to not to lose. And that is a difference in approach. And Uruguay should be more proactive, showing initiative, because we should and we can do this with the squad we have. So that the mistake was made when the game started. Uruguay's approach to not to lose the game instead of to go and win the game. And if this eventually leads to going to penalties and you lose, you make your own luck. You do it yourself. You should win the game. Okay, if we see a performance from Uruguay which really went for it, and you see a team that is fighting for the win, and eventually you are being knocked out of penalties, it's a different story. But this was not that story. So that is just a disappointment. And the overall record right now then is that Uruguay won the Copa America once in 6 opportunities, and the last 4 opportunities, Uruguay did not go to the semifinals, and that is unacceptable. And that is one of the big reasons why Óscar Tabárez today is not Uruguay manager anymore. But this is the overall record of Uruguay under Tabárez in the big tournaments in the qualification process. I would sum it up like this: when Tabárez came in as Uruguay manager in 2006, Uruguay had not been to the World Cup in Germany. They went to the World Cup in 2002, but before that, they missed out on a lot of World Cups as well. So Uruguay were in a dark place. Uruguay were once dominant forces in world football, 4-time world champions, 14 times Copa America winners before Tabárez took over, which was more than any other team, on any other South American team. But Uruguay had lost this way. No character. Garachirua was not there anymore. It was basically physical violence. And Garachirua is not violence. Garachirua is being tough, being hard, but being fair and being very smart up there, and well, using your gamesmanship to win games. But Uruguay were not that anymore. And also another thing is Uruguay were not connected to the Uruguayan people. A lot of people were really cynical about the national team. And when Tabárez came in, he recovered this. He and his coaching staff and his players obviously recovered the connection, the relationship between the fans and the national team. And the team started to have a style of play and identity again. So Uruguay were maybe not the most pleasing to see on the eye, but Uruguay were tough, competitive, could play, could go up to any team and give a game in these first 5 years. Obviously, we had games where we lost big, but overall, Uruguay were a team you should fear, and Uruguay was this. So this was the first 5 years. Uruguay went to the semifinal of the World Cup, won the Copa America, and yeah, we're back on the big stage, back as one of the best national teams in world football. So the first 5 years, nobody can ever say anything bad because it was just brilliant. But then after 2011, even though Uruguay enjoyed beautiful moments like the games against England, against Portugal, overall Uruguay failed to progress as a team. When the old guard, the old players like Lugano, like Forlan, like Russo Perez, like Tata Gonzalez, like Alvaro Pereira, like Alvaro Rios, players like this went, which some of them went, well, a bit too late in my opinion. Uruguay had to change to a new generation, and this switch, even now, has not been made correctly. Because even though Uruguay have a lot of young players in the squad now, the style of play, the identity we have, which is basically not visible, is not suitable. It's not suitable to these players. So Uruguay play games, for example, away to Peru, trying to stay back, trying to hit on the break, trying to limit the opponent's strengths, and basically being a really passive team, which is not playing to the strengths of the team we have right now. It was the style of play we had, or the way we should play when we had Alvaro Rios, Russo Perez, players like this who were comfortable with this. But right now, we require a different style of play, a different way of seeing football. And this progression from 2011 has been going in a bad way. And this is why, for me, in the last 8 years, Uruguay under Tabárez has not been overall, in the full picture, has not been doing well enough, has been underperforming. And I've had a lot of failures as well. Failures in the Copa America, failures to progress in terms of the style of play, progress as a team, blending in new players, saying goodbye to certain players like Caceres, maybe Godin, who should play less, failure to call up players who deserve it, failure to play players who do not deserve it anymore, and also a failure to get the results and show some football, which is an obligation if you have players like we have. So yeah, that is how I would sum it up. First 5 years, brilliant. After that, some good moments, but overall, not good enough. So the decision that has been made has been a decision that should be made. But yeah. But I would like to finish on thanking Óscar Tabárez for everything he has done for Uruguay, because besides the national team, the senior national team, he's also been a big part, big factor of Uruguay and the brilliant work that has been done on youth level. Him and his coaching staff has overseen the revolutionization, however you say it, of the national youth sides, so the under 20, under 17, under 15, and we all can see it looking at the amount of talents that are coming through playing in Europe right now. But he has been able to get a lot of these players at the Complejo Celeste, playing together, playing loads of games, and also making sure that they know what is required to play for Uruguay. What it means, the failures of the Uruguay national team, the history, what it means to the people, and what it represents for them to play for Uruguay. So the work he's done there has been brilliant. The work he's done in his first 5 years as Uruguay manager has been brilliant. After that, it's not been so great in many times. But yeah, overall, 15 years, the most matches of any national team manager for a single national team, 1 Copa America trophy, 3 consecutive World Cup qualifications. There has been some positive things, and we have to remember, cherish, thank Tabárez for this. Hopefully he can have just take it easy, be at home with his family, and enjoy the things he has achieved. And yeah, and then in a few years, maybe, you never know, he can come back as a sort of coordinator of the national youth setup. We will see. Anyway, I want to thank you all for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your opinions, your thoughts, your favorite moment of Tabárez, of the Uruguay national team under Tabárez in this last 15 years. I'm really excited to see this. But yeah, I want to thank you all for watching, and see you very soon. Bye bye.